This episode is sponsored by Kerkering Barberio, your trusted partner in tax, audit, and outsourced accounting services. Serving Sarasota, Manatee, and the greater Tampa Bay area for over 50 years, KB helps clients achieve their personal and business goals. Visit kbgrp.com to learn more. In this episode of From the Corner Office, Marlene Spalten talks a lot about being an intentional leader and what that means to her and her team at the Community Foundation Tampa Bay. To read more about focused and dynamic leaders like Marlene, subscribe to the Business Observer. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer's From the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Marlene Spalten, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Marlene, welcome and thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We're going to start, Marlene, we're going to get to know you a little bit and talk about some of the Community Foundation's successes and challenges and also your career in philanthropy. Before we get into that, I want to know a little bit more about you, and what better way to do that than our 3 rapid fire questions. Okay. Question 1, how many unread emails do you have right now? It's 9:07 a.m. as we're recording this. How many unread emails do you have?
I'm sure there are 300 of them. I am not as adept in managing email as I should be, but a lot.
All right. Well, it's like I said, it's early in the day. You have the whole day to get through that after this recording, of course. How many hours of sleep do you require a night to not be cranky the next day?
About 6 hours. I'm an early riser, so my day starts very early, sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning when I wake up and can't get back to sleep.
Right.
But that's when I do my reading and those kinds of things.
Is that a morning? So you'll read in the morning? Is that part of your morning routine?
Yes.
What else will you do in the morning?
I do exercises, just stretching exercises that I was taught in PT that help keep me able to move around quickly.
Yes. I need to be better with the morning exercises, right? To get up and we're not as young as we used to be. I'm not, at least. You are, but
thanks.
Yeah, the stretching is a good thing for sure. Okay, and last question: what's one food you would bring to a deserted island? If you were only allowed to bring one food, what would that be?
Oh, what came right to my head first was coconut, because it's my favorite thing in the world. But if I'm on a deserted island, it's likely there are coconuts there. So maybe bringing that would not be a good idea. But steak, I love good steak.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to get going. We're going to learn a little bit more about your career. Tell us about that. I know you've been in fundraising and nonprofits, and from your background, you also spent some time in Jacksonville, as did I. I worked at the Florida Times Union many years ago in the late 90s. So I know the Bowl School pretty well, and you worked there, it looked like. But tell us about your background and kind of your career in fundraising and how you got to the Community Foundation.
Well, I was raised in a small farming town of immigrants in Iowa named Centerville. It wasn't the center of anything, but that was the name. It had a big town square. My father's parents were from Croatia, and my mother was Italian. She was a member of a prominent family there. Her father was a government leader who was jailed by Mussolini at the beginning of World War II because he refused to follow Mussolini. So my grandmother had to get through the war on her own with 5 children. My dad was a decorated officer in the infantry in the war. He loved America. She loved America, so they came here. They were married in Genoa, and they went back to Centerville to start their family. My father worked at the post office, but he stayed in the military through the Iowa National Guard, where he advanced to brigadier general. And I tell you that background because it's not surprising then that patriotism, duty, and service are all part of what was instilled in us at a very early age. Ironically, after surviving the war, my father died suddenly of a heart attack at age 49, leaving my mother, who had never had a job in her life, to raise 6 children. My husband and I met at Cornell College, Mount Vernon, Iowa, small liberal arts school. When we found out we were born on exactly the same day, and it was a Valentine's Day, we had to get married. And then we settled in St. Charles, where he was from in Illinois, just outside Chicago.
So both your birthdays, just going to clarify this, both your birthdays are February 14th.
Yes. And we were born the same year. So the same
Really?
day.
That's
The same
fascinating.
day. Yeah, my roommates went crazy after our first date and insisted that we get married as a
Yeah,
result.
you really had to. It's a good thing that and you're compatible. How many years have you been married?
54.
54 years. Congratulations. That is amazing. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just that it was on the same day. You guys obviously have built quite a amazing 54 years. That's amazing. What a great story. That's crazy. Okay, go on. I could talk more about that, but people want to learn more about you. So you went to St. Charles, where he was from.
Yes, and I began teaching a middle school. I was a middle school teacher, loved middle school kids, still do. Know that that's such an important time in the life of children. And you'll see throughout this, the reason I'm boring you with this whole story is because there are elements of all of these things that happened in my life that has led me to where I am. So we I took a leave after our first child was due, and then I actually resigned after that because our twins were born just 13 months after our first child. So we had 3 babies in 13 months. So I stayed home and took care of them and learned a lot. I became very interested in early childhood development as I observed those 3 little babies beginning to mature. And when we moved to Litchfield, Connecticut, for my husband's new job, and our youngest of now 5 children was due to start preschool, I accepted a teaching job there, running the program that was sponsored by a private high school for dyslexic students, the Foreman School. And the administration had created the program on its campus for the benefit of its faculty, and then it allowed town people to fill the remaining spots that were open. And that gave me a real glimpse into the values to families of business-sponsored childcare centers that are right there on campus with the business. And I now support that business located and supported childcare services. We're starting to do some work in that area. So when my son started school and with lots of experiences fundraising as a volunteer, that same school said, "Why don't you lead our fundraising department?" And that's how I started in fundraising. Our children earned scholarships at New England private schools who had the luxury of assigning only a handful of students to each of their college advisors. And that's a stark difference from what the heavy burden of public school advisors is, with literally hundreds of students that they're trying to help in the course that goes through getting ready and then choosing college to attend. So I'm a very strong advocate for expanding college and career counseling to students and their families throughout high school. That made a huge difference. We moved to Florida for me to accept a position at leading the fundraising department at Bowles. And that was very convenient because our youngest was just entering high school and Bowles was a perfect fit for him. So he went to school and I worked in the fundraising department. That's where I learned a lot about managing boards and creating relationships with very high net worth families, legacy families in the Bowles area. If you've lived there, Mark, you know that there are families that have lived there through generations. And having solid relationships with those families is very important and was important to the success of fundraising at Bowles. So that was a very good experience. After 8 years in that position, I was asked to lead the Foundation of Baptist Health, which is a system of 5 hospitals, including a children's hospital. I remember my first day walking through the first floor lobby and calling my husband to say, "This is really incredible experience. It's like life and death," because I was thinking about the operating rooms right over my head on the second floor. And my husband said, "It is life and death." So the really profound importance of quality health care for everyone has certainly made a great impression on me. I was uh, I was suggested to the search for a new president at the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay by a friend who was the head of that same foundation over in Jacksonville, Nina Waters. She said, "You'd be perfect for this job that's open. I'm going to suggest you." Okay. And she did. And they were looking for someone who would grow the foundation. So it made sense to the board and especially to the chair, Greg Rossica, who became a mentor, that they hire a fundraiser and a successful fundraiser, which I had been. So that's how I got the job. When I came into the foundation, there was not a lot of, well, the strategy was we will just make sure that a handful of professional advisors get to know who we are, and then they will suggest their clients to the foundation. And while that's a route that many still take to get to the community foundation, it shouldn't be the only route. So we really had to design and build a program that reached out to people that included those who had the means to help in their community and had the inclination to do that and make it easier for them to be philanthropically active in the community. So been a great experience at Community Foundation Tampa Bay. What I love most is that it's both getting and giving. We are both a philanthropy partner to those who want to be philanthropic. At the same time, we're a funder out in the community, and we can make matches between funds and needs and opportunities throughout the community as a result. And to me, that is actually the perfect structure
Yeah.
to be a part of.
I love what you said about too. So many great things. It's so great to have so many people in your life as you advance in your career. Somebody who's you'd be perfect for this, right? Isn't that like we all like look for the we I think we as leaders look for those people, and somebody was looking out for you, saying, "Hey, Marlene, you would be perfect for this." And then you mentioned Greg, one of your mentors. Tell us about him or other mentors, and what have you learned from your mentors about leadership in your career?
Greg is highly successful in the business world. He now commutes to New York, where he's been called there to work during the week, and then comes back here to Florida on weekends to be with his family. Was be bold. You know more than you think you do. I'm a humble person, and Greg really gave me confidence.
Confidence that you're able to kind of do these big things that the community foundation does. There's a lot, as you mentioned, there's a lot of need and there's a lot of people who want to help, and you have to connect both. So bold in that way to grow the foundation.
Right. And what I learned was as a relationship builder, which is really how I viewed myself, that I had gotten very good at that. And that included building staff, recognizing talent in people that maybe not be doing exactly what it is you need them to do now, but had the background, as I had a very varied background, to get to where I am and to take a chance on people that had obvious talent to me and I knew they would adjust to the assignments of the job. So now we have this great team, and that allows me to do what I feel like I do best and where I take great joy, and that's ideas. How do we do more? How can we help more? How can we be better? Those are the questions that go through my mind constantly. And I love that passion and for newness and creativity. I'm an incredibly curious person, so it suits my personality to find out what more is there that we can do.
You mentioned the staff. What do you look for in leaders? What are some of the characteristics that stand out to you as good leaders that you look for in the foundation?
Character, number one, and genuineness. Someone that seems to know themselves, both their strengths and their weaknesses, and a drive. I like competitive people that are competing against what they did yesterday, not necessarily others, to really head toward a goal with all seriousness and conviction, and to reach that in a way that is admirable, that is reflective of our values as an organization. And to understand that we do all of this in partnership with others, people that other people like and want to spend time with, want to talk to, will accept their calls, will take their advice. Those kind of people, those are the ones we have working at the Community Foundation. I'm just so proud of our team.
Well, and right, and in that kind of work, I mean, this would be true for a lot of organizations, but you want pleasant individuals too, right? You want that shine when they come out. I know because I'm in Sarasota, I know the Sarasota Community Foundation people, several of them pretty well. One of them, you probably know Roxy Jurdy, also from
Roxy
Iowa.
is, yes, Roxy is a dear friend.
Yes,
When I first came over here, she reached out, and we've been great friends
I would
since.
say two Iowa Midwest natives
That's
have to
right.
bond. But one thing I would say, whether it's Roxy or Misha or Kirsten, all these great people who work there, they're just really good human beings, and you know that when you see them. I would imagine the community. I would imagine that's what you look for at the Community Foundation when you're hiring as well.
Yes, yes, exactly. Good people, and there are lots and lots of them out there. There's no shortage. There's another 10 people I'd love to hire tomorrow if we had the space. There are lots of good people out there who want to do good for the community. It's very rewarding work. We have very little turnover ever, and people stay because the people they're dealing with, philanthropists, are wonderful people as well. They're generous. They've been successful enough to be able to share what they've earned over a lifetime. And just thinking about that warms my heart, that people are thinking of others, many times strangers or people they will never ever meet, and thinking about what they can do with the resources that they've collected to help them live a more fruitful life. And in the end, it helps all of us. There's a little selfish element to my wanting to bring in more philanthropic dollars. The better everyone does, the better I do. So it's of no help to me when people are food insecure, when they're homeless, or when they're not able to attend college, even though they have the talent to do so. That does not help me either, or my
Right.
family. We're all in
What
this
are some, as a
together.
leader, what are some things looking back in your career that maybe were setbacks or failures or big mistakes that you learned from? What, if anything, stands out that you learned the most from that didn't go the way you thought it or you wanted it to?
I thought you'd ask that question because that's fun to hear what people's failure moments. And one was actually, it was a fundraising experience at Baptist Health when what had been a small family foundation suddenly ballooned into a huge foundation. I had known the woman who was running it, and she called to me to tell me, you should think of something big because we have lots of money now to give away. She had supported our efforts at Bowles before, so I knew her from there. So I had just learned that the hospital wanted to start a pediatric neurological center there, and that it would cost, they needed $5 million right off the bat. And I knew she had it. So I had her come. We talked to her. The hospital president talked to her. And they said, well, we're going to help with this. We're only going to do half, though, of what you asked for. And if you want to introduce us, I had tried to say, let me have the doctor who's heading this up be a part of the meeting. And she said, no, I don't want to disappoint him if we decide not to do it. So that after that first visit, she said, and if you want to bring in Dr. James for another visit, that would be fine. She said, could you meet on Thursday? This was Tuesday. And the hospital president said, yes, we can meet on Thursday, because $2.5 million sounded pretty good to him. But I knew that wasn't enough. Dr. James made the difference. When we had him visit with them that second time, he left the room to go to surgery, and they left us out in the hall for a few minutes, then called us back in and said, Tuesday you were worth $2.5 million, you and Larry, the hospital president. Today, with Dr. James, you're now worth $5 million. So we will
Wow.
do the whole gift. The right people in the room, the right people making the ask
Yeah.
to inspire someone to know that this is the right thing for me to do.
Yeah. What a
That was the
what a
lesson
big,
learned.
yeah, and big impact too. Amazing.
Yeah.
So as we're, sort of, I mean, people say Happy New Year into January. I'm not sure when you're not allowed to say Happy New Year anymore, but maybe we're toward the end of January, but we're still kind of focused on the new year. Marlene, what can we look forward to for the Community Foundation at Tampa Bay the rest of 2025? What's top of mind for you this year?
Well, we anticipate hitting a milestone in asset growth. That's important to us because the more that's been committed to philanthropy for our community, the more can be granted out to the community. It's our 35th year of the foundation, so we'll be celebrating that as well. And we're looking at our community leadership efforts. Right now, we're what's called the backbone organization, which no one understands. But in a collective impact model, it means the organization equal to other partners around the table, except that we're holding up, we hire the staff, we are taking care of the funds raised necessary for the initiative and distributing them and so on. So that's our role, and we have 4 of those ongoing right now. We've been asked to do a lot of community leadership work because of our position now in the community, and we want to round that up in some way that makes sense for the community and makes it easier to access our expertise as well as our funds. So we'll be working on that, and I anticipate that there will be an important announcement about that as we get into the fall.
Excellent. Well, and you also have, as I said, we're in the beginning of the year. You have a birthday coming up and an anniversary. So happy early birthday and happy anniversary on February 14th.
Thank you. That's so funny. Yes.
Marlene Spalten, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. Thank you for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordy. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.